Welcome everybody to a Dragon Ball What If story. This time I have What If Saiyans were in Star Wars. This was an older What If I did a long time ago. However, I've gotten so much better at narrating since then, and I got a much better mic. I will also be uploading the sequel to this video tomorrow, so I wanted it to be fresh on you guys' mind. Anyways, let's begin with the story. Runs the galaxy. While Jedi Knights and clone troopers stand on the battlefield, the Separatists look outside their own for help. In an effort to turn the tide of battle, Count Dooku approaches the outer rim planet of Vegeta in order to enlist the forces of the Saiyans by his side. The Saiyans are a powerful race with a strong connection to the Force, but they largely work as mercenaries under the highest bidder. However, like every race, there are exceptions to that rule. We pan over to the ship of Count Dooku, arriving over to planet Vegeta. He lands in the upper levels, close to the castle. His apprentice, Asajj Ventress, awaits in the ship, meaning that this takes place in the early stages of the Clone Wars. As Dooku steps out of the ship, he is greeted by a line of Saiyans, who kneeled before their king. King Vegeta approaches Dooku as if an old friend, and the two men give each other a handshake.
Welcome to our humble planet, my dear Dooku. So you've finally taken the throne, you old fool. It's been far too long. Over 30 years, I still remember you and Qui-Gon coming here to settle the dispute with the Tuffles. Yes, though I hear war erupted regardless not long after.
King Vegeta laughs dismissively, and he invites Dooku into the castle. There, the two discuss the state of the galaxy. Dooku is trying to convince the king to have the Saiyans join the side of the Separatists, but King Vegeta is not interested. The Saiyans were a very ancient race, though not many people know of their origin. Dooku knew it was to his advantage to have them by his side. The Saiyans are raised with a loose link to the dark side. Though they are not wise in it, they are able to use it in the form of bursts of Force Lightning and Force Push. They possess incredible skills as fighters, being freakishly strong, even rivaling Wookiees. However, their most terrifying asset is their tail, as they are able to transform into monstrous giant monkeys once exposed to enough blood waves.
We prefer to be neutral. I don't know if we should take on the business of this war.
Dooku was getting impatient and told the king to dismiss his guards. King Vegeta accepted, and Dooku continued to try to explain why the mercenaries would make a great addition to the Separatists. But this time, he waved his hand under the table. Dooku knows that King Vegeta isn't strong-minded, and could potentially be convinced through the use of the Force. Of course, while the Saiyans are strong in some aspects of it, they are mostly brutes with weak minds. At least according to Dooku. Peeking out of the doorway, the Prince of all Saiyans, Vegeta, realized just what Dooku was doing. Prince Vegeta was terrified to see his father so easily convinced, and had no choice but to ignore it. It was settled. Dooku and King Vegeta had reached an agreement for the Separatists to be supported by some of the Saiyans. Their ability to transform into great apes would be a great asset during the battles against large clone battalions. Dooku leaves the planet soon after. The king directs his officers to inform the elites that jobs will be allowed to be taken from the Separatists. However, not all Saiyans wished to support that faction. On the other side of the war, in the cloning facilities of Kamino, a Saiyan warrior stands opposed to the Separatists, as a handful of Saiyans were already hired by the Republic. Their expertise were used to train clone troopers, as well as occasionally lead battalions into war zones alongside Jedi Knights. This time, a Saiyan warrior named Bardock trained a small band of clones as they got ready to be deployed.
Listen up, troopers. You are clones out there. Soldiers, but above all, brothers. You need to act as a team, you got that? My old squadron and I learned that the hard way.
A cheer comes from the crowd of troopers. The Kaminoans obtained help from Bardock, his squad, and a couple of other Saiyans because of Jango Fett's recommendation. Bardock and Fett were once rivals in the bounty hunting business, but now Bardock was done with all that. He's just an honest man trying to make his living in the galaxy. Though he was a harsh trainer, he also cared about his troops. He fiercely defended the troops from the Kaminoans, who often saw them as nothing more than tools. Even the Jedi seemed to share that sentiment. As a low-class warrior, he knew what it was like to be used in that way. He became attached to many members of the 182nd Legion. In particular, one trooper who called himself Mato. The trooper adorned his armor with cloth from the various planets they went to. After some time, both the Republic and the Jedi acknowledged his skill, paying him to lead troops and help Jedi in battle. In one of the missions to planet Felucia, Bardock paired up with a female Jedi. Here we see the Jedi and Bardock have many arguments, and find it difficult to work with one another. Bardock does not care for the Jedi, and is very disrespectful. The Jedi Order doesn't trust many Saiyans anyways, because of their link to the dark side. But something happens during the Felucia missions. One night, they were ambushed by a group of super battle droids and a strange, four-armed cyborg. Something was very familiar about the cyborg to Bardock, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Regardless, the encounter was brief. As the moon rose and Bardock transformed into an Ozaru, the Jedi hid away along with the clones, trying to hide her face. While doing this, she's shot down, gravely hurt. However, Bardock is able to defend everybody, at least for a while, allowing them to get close to their escape ships. That is until the cyborg uses both his lightsaber and tail to cut through Bardock's tail, making Bardock de-transform into a humanoid form again. Though the Jedi is hurt and hiding her face, she uses force pull to pull Bardock close to them. It's not over yet though. Bardock watches as Mato is murdered in front of his eyes. While defending him and his brothers, Bardock takes the blood-drenched cloth from Mato's arm and places it around his head as a bandana, ready for battle. He uses both blasters and his limited abilities with the Force to keep the android at bay, and the Jedi helps as well. Bardock tries to nurse her back to health, as what little troops they had left blasted at the cyborg. Bardock feels underneath her cloak. It was a tail beneath her cape. His eyes widened in the realization that the Jedi is a Saiyan as well. He asks who she is.
I am one of the only Saiyans to become a Jedi. My name is Gine. I'm sorry I didn't tell you before, but being a Saiyan Jedi is especially dangerous.
A Saiyan Jedi? That's the first I've ever heard of it, but we have to get out of here. Can you move?
Nothing a medical droid couldn't fix.
The clones rush over to help her to the transport, but the cyborg approaches quickly. Bardock tells the pilot to hurry and take off. They start to fly away, but the cyborg leaps towards the ship. Though the gunner tries to keep him at bay, the cyborg uses his lightsabers to deflect the fire. Bardock concentrates all of his power and fires off one force lightning, knocking down the cyborg. This causes Bardock to become gravely ill, as the dark side takes a toll on his body. Even for Saiyan, a force lightning blast of that kind could mean death. Gine is a little afraid of the power she witnessed, but dismisses it as the clones try to take care of them. The team escapes. Bardock and Gine are escorted back to Kamino. Once there, the two get to have a talk. She asks how someone could have so much dark side power, and Bardock asks if it's any different from her being a Jedi. She admitted that she knew very little about Saiyans, and she was taken to the Jedi Temple as a baby, though the Jedi don't usually bother with the Saiyans. She was born with presence unlike many Saiyans, one pure and hopeful. Bardock scoffs at the idea, but explains a small legend. According to him, there was a small civil war amongst the Saiyans in their native world thousands of years ago. During that time, a group of Saiyans, who were very well versed in the Force, used their abilities and knowledge of the dark side and light side to end the conflict. A Saiyan whose name is lost to legend channeled the Force in such a way that it seemed like he was growing into a transformation. According to legend, it was thanks to those events that the descendant Saiyans have naturally been born with connections to the Force. Gine is silent when Jedi Master Shakti enters the room. She is thankful to have them both alive and well. Gine asks what the hell that cyborg was, and Bardock interrupts her. He says that he saw the Saiyan royal symbol on his chest. Shakti acknowledges this, saying that she and some other Jedi had encountered the cyborg. He was once a Saiyan himself, King Vegeta. Bardock's eyes widen, and through flashbacks we're shown what just happened. Not long after their first meeting, Dooku arrived back at planet Vegeta. He visited multiple times requesting more Saiyan mercenaries, and it was getting tiresome. King Vegeta looked weak and frail. After all, Dooku had been influencing his actions through the Force constantly. He even had the king send away a baby because Dooku felt a great ripple through the Force once he saw him. The baby's father, Paragus, followed him. They were never seen again. One day, the king finally broke and attacked Dooku in the chambers. King Vegeta was no match for Count Dooku, though he did put up a fight. He was, after all, one of the most powerful Saiyans. In the end, Dooku took down the king and brought him over to his ship. On the way to the ship, Saiyan guards attempted to stop him, but he easily pushed them aside with either mind tricks or force push. That was until he was confronted by Prince Vegeta. The prince had witnessed the whole thing, and when Dooku attempted to mind trick him, it didn't work. Dooku was impressed and complimented the boy in being stronger than his father mentally. He told Vegeta that the king would return, and Dooku left. But not before Vegeta tried to fire at Dooku. Ventress jumped in front of her master, with her sabers protecting him. She was ready to kill the kid, but Dooku told her to stand down. The Sith then leave the planet. We now see that it's the present again. Zooming out of the King Vegeta's cyborg face, he hides within one of the towers of Vegeta's castle, watching as Dooku appoints a new figurehead to the planet. The new king declares that the war had gone far enough, and more forces were needed. The Saiyans boo. They didn't want to partake in the war in the first place. They liked doing jobs for either side. They were started to be treated like soldiers. Prince Vegeta was disgusted in the background, leaving along with Nappa. Prince Vegeta would grow resentful of both the Republic and the Separatists. And not only had the war taken his father, but his throne as well. There wasn't much he could do here, knowing Dooku's power. Though he tried to rally up the Saiyans by telling them what happened, most didn't believe him. They too were under the influence of Dooku, and perhaps someone even greater, the Dark Lord of the Sith. The Saiyans were divided in the war as some went against the Separatists in protest, ironically supporting the war they wished to stay neutral in. Winners could often be decided by the side with the Ozaru, though many battles were usually fought during the day. Even so, the Saiyans captured by either side had their tails cut off in a cruel manner of punishment. Bardock and Gine continued to lead missions, making a great team together. The two managed to find themselves in a battle against Asajj Ventress multiple times, even after she had left Count Dooku. They even supported great heroes such as General Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka Tano, and Anakin Skywalker. Speaking of Obi-Wan, King Vegeta proved to be an incredible adversary during the Utapau battle. He had escaped capture by the Jedi many times, but not this time. In this cyborg form, King Vegeta became proficient in lightsaber combat, as well as increased his natural strength. 2 arms were added to his body, but his connection to the Force was harshly severed and limited. His tail could no longer conduct blood waves, so Ozaru was off limits. However, he wouldn't need it with how much strength he gained. Vegeta strikes like a monster every time he hits Obi-Wan. Multiply that by 4 as you count each arm, and Obi-Wan is in trouble. Additionally, Vegeta's tail was a weapon of its own, even managing to pierce through Obi-Wan's arm. Gine and Bardock were assigned to partake in the battle as leaders of the clone troopers, while Kenobi infiltrated quietly. Thankfully, Kenobi is an expert duelist and Force user, using his skills in clever ways to keep the cyborg at bay. Obi-Wan and Gine managed to fight side by side in the battle against King Vegeta, where she cuts off the king's tail and 2 of his arms. Obi-Wan uses this to stab Vegeta in the chest with the lightsaber, though this doesn't stop him for good, as it hadn't pierced through his armor completely. It did create a hole, however. Gine is grabbed by the neck and slammed to the ground, then thrown over to Kenobi. Vegeta tries to get away, but Bardock uses Force Push to throw the cyborg back at Kenobi, who grabs onto a blaster and shoots down King Vegeta, ending him. The Saiyans recover and continue leading the charge, while Obi-Wan goes to Cody to collect his lightsaber, which had been lost during the battle. Just then, the decisive orders are called. Order 66. As Gine and Bardock hunt down the Separatist leaders, they feel something in the Force. They turn around and see that they're surrounded by clone troopers. Something is very wrong. Thinking quickly, Gine pushes them off with the force from every direction, blaster bolts going off as clones fall down. They had fired at them. Bardock and Gine rush off to their ship, but they won't be able to dodge much longer. They see from far away that Obi-Wan is shot down from his mount, but they can't save him now. The two get on their starfighters just in time, blasting off into space. However, we see that their clone troopers are already contacting the newly announced Emperor that the Saiyans were on the run. Bardock and Gine take routes to planet Vegeta in hopes of hiding while everything cools off. The galaxy slowly succumbs to the rule of the Empire, though it took some time for the Outer Realm worlds to be affected. The Emperor made it a point to ensure that all Force users were taken off quickly, starting with the Jedi. To him, the Saiyans were nothing more than monkeys, but those monkeys could be dangerous. A few years into the Empire's rule, planet Vegeta devolved into civil war. The civilization was broken because of the war. Bardock and Gine lived far away from most of the action. Quietly, they tried to avoid the full moon and any other Saiyans. They heard that the prince almost replaced the king that was put into place by the separatists, but many didn't support him. The prince was exiled along with his loyal Nappa. During their time hiding, Bardock and Gine ended up with two children, a mere 2 years apart, Raditz and Kakarot. Yes, they are much closer in age than in the original story, while Vegeta and Broly are much older. At this point, Bardock's kids are around 3 years old, and they live peacefully as farmers, far away from cities. It seemed as if they had escaped their fate. However, the sun of planet Vegeta is eclipsed by a huge Star Destroyer zooming over the landscape. Not far behind it was a space station under construction. Though it took some time for it to reach the planet, out of it came TIE fighters that spread all over the planet. They came in order to drain resources from the planet, steal technology, and kill the Jedi that was rumored to live there. Bardock yells back at Gine to hide the kids. When the door of their house is blasted open, 5 stormtroopers enter the house.
Hand over the Jedi,
they said. However, Bardock begins blasting at the troopers, allowing for his family to escape from the house. He runs after them. The house breaks apart behind them. The rubble is pushed apart by Darth Vader, walking towards Gine. Gine tells her kids to go with Bardock as she leaps back to fight the monster.
I should have known it would be you, Jedi.
Gine looks confused, but she strikes at Vader over and over. She is no match for the tremendous abilities of the Sith. Bardock doesn't want to leave Gine, but he at least needs to get his kids to safety first. Their ship wasn't too far away. However, Bardock hears Gine's screams as she is pushed into the rubble of the house. Vader then turns to Bardock, using the force to pull them close. Bardock manages to jump out of the way with Kakarot, and he tries to get Raditz, but Raditz is caught and grabbed by Vader. Gine bursts out of the house, throwing her lightsaber at Vader. This strikes his armor, but he simply lifts her up with the force, choking her. Gine dies slowly, but Raditz starts to bang against Vader. Even a child Saiyan was incredibly strong, and he manages to knock Vader off his feet. Bardock takes this chance to throw Kakarot onto one of the ships, blasting it off. He then runs back, firing at Vader, who knocks out Raditz.
Shame I had to kill the mother, but your child will become a fine addition to the Empire.
never!
Bardock said, punching Vader across the face. Bardock unleashes a string of lightning against Vader, but the Sith Lord uses his lightsaber to defend himself. It looks like Vader deflects the lightning right back at Bardock, knocking him down.
I don't fear you!
Then you will die braver than most.
Vader is going to kill Bardock when a huge shadow covers them. Bardock stares at it, and he feels his heart pounding. Everything is silence. Vader looks back, and he realizes the Death Star had reached them. What he doesn't realize was that the Death Star emitted blitz waves, similar to a moon of that size. Vader jumps back, holding onto Raditz. Thankfully, he is unconscious, so he can't transform without looking at the Death Star. Bardock, on the other hand, becomes a monstrous Ozaru. All around planet Vegeta, Ozaru begin to attack the stormtroopers that arrived to take their resources. The Empire hadn't taken into account how the Death Star would affect the Saiyans. Vader gives an order to take whatever resources they capture and return back to the Star Destroyer. As he says this, Bardock punches the ground towards him, but Vader jumps out of the way. Vader defends himself with a lightsaber, which burns Bardock's giant fist every time he gets close. Vader is pushed to the edge. The Ozaru is too fast for him. At one point, he's punched, not being able to dodge. He knows the weakness. Vader rushes between the Ozaru's leg and slashes through Bardock's tail, which makes him de-transform back into the regular Saiyan. In the distance, Vader hears the roars of the Ozaru and feels the ground shaking. He can't waste any more time. Bardock is very hurt, but he slowly stands up, taking Gine's lightsaber.
This is for my destiny. My son's destiny. The destiny of planet Vegeta. And yes, even your stupid destiny. Die!
With the last of his strength, Bardock runs towards Vader with his wife's saber. However, Vader dodges out of the way just as he cuts through Bardock. The Saiyan falls to the ground, dead. Vader calls down the TIE Fighter, taking Raditz and Gine's lightsaber with him and returning to the Star Destroyer. Once up there, Vader stares down at planet Vegeta. The Ozaru make the planet shake as they fight each other and the stormtroopers. It made Vader realize why the Emperor wanted a few alive. They were incredibly powerful, but too dangerous to be kept at large. Vader turns back as Grand Moff Tarkin gives the order to fire at will. There are whispers from the crew of the Death Star, as not all of the soldiers are back in the ship, but they couldn't argue with the Grand Moff. In the blink of an eye, planet Vegeta and Bardock are destroyed. However, there's still hope for the Saiyan race, as the young Kakarot lands on a distant planet. But that's for next time on What If Saiyans Were in Star Wars, coming tomorrow. Thank you for watching, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed this video. As always, it's been a ton of fun to make, and I wouldn't be here without you guys. Your constant support for the channel means the absolute world to me, and I encourage you to share these videos with Dragon Ball fans and anime fans in general, so we can continue to grow as a community. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at SmugstickDB, and on TikTok at Smugstick. I also have a Discord which you can join by clicking the link down in the description. Shout out to the Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan God, and Ultra Instinct members of the channel. Enterprise System, Sonic is the best. Eric Dragon, Nuka Draco, The Baked Potato, All Might, Midnight Combatant, Sacred Saiyan, Phil J. Akir, Pizza Hut Kitman, Orlando Castellano, Hannah Rowan, Sir Justice, and the real Samuel Randall. You guys really are the stars of the show here, and keep the channel afloat. Thank you as always. Remember, the like goal for this video is 3,000 likes, and I'm sure we can get there. Anyways, until we meet again. See ya!